24th of February, 1836, William Barrett Travis wrote a letter from the Alamo. I'm going to paraphrase it now because I'm changing it for the current times. It says, to all Texans and Americans in the world, fellow citizens and compatriots, we're besieged on all sides by enemies, this time not under Santa Anna. These enemies are in the wire, foreign and domestic. Born into colonel in the military, and yes, I served as a private as well. But if we didn't disseminate the information down to the lowest common denominator, then we live in a spirit of fear. We don't live in a spirit of fear. This book right here, I don't see any fear in it. I see what happens when you have fear.
Right.
But I also read something very important not too long ago, and I heard Roy Boyd, sheriff of Goliad County, a friend of mine that I met from the border working on Operation Lone Star. Roy Boyd brought it up, and he said it in his talk, and he went, this is important. This is the time that we're at. Because the time for the current cast of cartoon characters is over. All right? That time is over. We need serious people doing serious work. Because the attack is serious. The attack isn't, excuse my French, half-assed. The attack is full on. We've got to mount back the same attack and then some. That's how we stop what's happening to our nation. I got a 3-year-old grandson. I want him to grow up in what I had.
Right.
That I thought I had. Right? But in Ezekiel chapter 33, there's this thing called the Watchman. And I'm not going to read it all because I don't have my spectacles. And so after I turned 50 and now I'm 60, I can't see this close. I can see out there, but I can't see here. Ezekiel 33, the Watchman. So I'm going to paraphrase it. It says, Son of God, speaking to us, Son of God, Watchman, if you do not sound the trumpet when the enemy is coming, it is on your head. Now, if you sound the trumpet and the people decide that they want to continue down the same path they're on, it's on their head. Now, this is not a I told you so thing. This is a servant heart thing. I grew up in a household where my dad, first generation American, came here from another country, fought in World War II for the United States, fought in a Civil War downrange for the United States, came to America, became a citizen, assimilated, never spoke his foreign language in the house, changed his last name so it would be anglicized, because he realized what this country was in 1953, 54. And then became a family doctor and then taught me a servant's heart as I ride around with him on the side of a bench seat on a 3-on-a-tree Scottsdale, running up and down the roads, going trading for preserves and hogs and whatnot to trade medical services for people. That's what I learned from a servant's heart. From a guy that was harder than woodpecker lips, that fought hand-to-hand in World War II. And that man had the biggest servant heart I ever seen, my dad. Gave his shirt off his back for anybody. And I learned that. But then I started reading this. Now, it took me a little bit longer in life to figure out that you can have a relationship. That's how it works for all of us, right? It's called your testimony. And when the Lord told me, as I was praying about even running for this position of senior public servant, as the Lord told me, just give your testimony and I'll do the rest. So this is a testimony, but it's going to be peppered in with the things that are important for this state, for this nation. Because as Texas goes, so goes the nation.
Yes.
As the nation goes, so goes worldwide freedom. That's just the bottom line. And I'm giving it up front. So, you got to have a servant's heart. And you got to live it. You can't pretend. You can't just be fake. Right? I would much rather be right now up on the Red River, where my family lives, raising my corny eggs. I had saved up. I've been building up a herd. I had 48 of them. And I was going to get into the stock business. Right? Because I didn't want to do not put another bandage on anybody ever again in my life. I'm burned out. Trauma burns you out. And if you're doing it on the battlefield, it definitely burns you out. Right? The reason I got the nickname Doc, which we had a hard time with the Texas GOP, because they said, well, you can't use a nickname in your name. I'm like, you can't use a term that sets you apart. I said, that's my nickname. Well, how did you earn that nickname? How long have you had it? Now, this is me just trying to file 3 Fridays ago. Well, I earned a nickname on the battlefield in Iraq, and some kid screamed out, we need you over here, Doc. I've had that nickname since. DOC. That's not DR. It's not MD. It's not DO. Okay, it's Doc. I need you over here. They don't ask you credentials. I had this one kid back in Bagram in the Air Base who was just loading up coming back to the United States. A rocket attack ensued and it hit the airfield, but it didn't hit the gas truck, thank goodness. We were all standing there getting ready to load up on a C-17 to come home. I got no medical equipment on me other than a tourniquet. And this kid there, this refueler, was sitting there, and he got hit by a piece of shrapnel right here. 20-something-year-old kid, right in the neck. It didn't hit his carotid, it hit his jugular. Okay, well, I can stop that with my hands. So they said, Doc, this is the worst one, get over here. So I went over there, got on my knees, held his jugular, put him in the back of a pickup truck, drove down to Army base, so there's Air Force base there, down to the Craig Air Force Hospital, where they're working there for cash, kind of a mass unit kind of thing. I'm sitting there right next to him. He looks at me and says, are you even a medic? I said, no, but I stayed at the Holiday Inn Express last night. That's God's honest truth. And he didn't get it. He's a kid. He's like, he said, am I going to die? And I said, we're all going to die, son. You're not dying today. You're going to be okay.
Don't know when.
We get in there and do that now. Well, why are you hearing these things? Because when something comes, you've got to act. You've got to act hard. You've got to act fast. You've got to be decisive. You can't look at somebody and say, well, I'm going to poll that. I'm going to see how that polls. I've lived through that in the state of Texas. When I left active duty out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, with 3rd Special Forces Group, where I served as a Green Beret and as a flight surgeon. I just put the credentials on the website, so I'm not going to keep emailing people my credentials. They're on the website. When you have 30,000 people in a state, 30 million people in a state that want to know your credentials, it gets old trying to play that game. So they're on the website. You know what it does to a Green Beret who used to live in the shadows? It's scary. I've got to have my birth certificate all the way to the last deployment medal that I got. It's all on there so you can look at it. And you can peruse it. You can send it all to, what's his name, Ortiz up there. I keeps hitting us up. I'm like, listen, dude, stop. Stop being a child. You can foil all that stuff. Anyway, when we go to this, when we get to this point where we cross the line, we have enough right now to make it to the primary, the 3rd of March. 2nd of March is the Independence Day in Texas, right? The next day is the primary. I'd like to say that's Liberation Day, right? I'd like to say that.
Right.
That requires every one of you. Can we win it? Here's the tactic. Let me back up. When I came off active duty, here's why. This is important. When I came off active duty, I came back to Texas. I did my residency down there. I was just there in West Orange the other day, yesterday, in Port Arthur, Beaumont, in 96, or 97, 98, 99. Came back in 2015. Different world. Things changed over here. We're looking at everything downrange through essentially a sniper rifle scope. We're paying attention to the mission. Didn't realize what was happening to the freedoms and sovereignty back here as I was watching the very pieces of the republic just getting chopped off and chopped off and chopped off. And I'm like, there's something wrong here. It's not constitutional that people should pay this much taxes, period. They shouldn't be paying any taxes on something they bought. Not constitutional. It's not constitutional to force somebody to pay for a school tax when they don't have kids in school. This is common sense law, right? It's called common law. Right? So then we go back and we look and we say, well, what's happened here? And then as soon as I get back here and I go to work on the border and I go to work all around the state in 250 counties out of 254 doing National Guard stuff and helping soldiers and training and getting ready to go back to the next problem set on the border, the problem set didn't kick off from the border. The problem set kicked off from Wuhan, China. Now you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And that thing, that so-called coronavirus, well, when I took my boards after medical school, that's the common cold. Well, what happens when you put a gain of function on the back of it? All right, so now we're talking about deoxyribonucleic acid. Well, we're changing up the sequences, the patents that existed from before 2016. Now we can see all this stuff now. The information is out there. But if we look at all that stuff and we say, well, it's just a very bad virus that's going to kill 10 million people in the next week. No, that was a lie. That was fear. That's the opposite of this. See, this book right here, this is mine. There are many like it, but this one is mine. I was issued this one. Any military people will understand that one. But the opposite of fear is love. So when I look at a soldier and I say, you've been downrange? Yeah. And I can tell if they have or they haven't. I say, what's the most important aspect of virtue of being a warrior? Oh, medals, sir, medals. Oh, shooting guns. Oh, blowing things up. No. the most important virtue of a soldier, a warrior, a true warrior, is love. Love for those next to him, and for you people back home, whether you served or not, because you did your time. It's for you back home. It's, once again, back to the servant's heart. So here I come back from Africa on a trip downrange to the sub-Saharan Africa, fighting the Al-Qaeda and the Maghreb all the way across from Mauritania to Niger, Mali. Come back to Texas, and COVID kicks off. Yes, right at the very beginning of it. And this is after I got deployed again out of the Texas National Guard back to the active duty. That's another thing. We're going to protect our National Guard. We're not going to send them to wars that are not declared wars. That's unconstitutional as well. All right, so we get back to Texas. I do with my team, and they say there's this thing called COVID. But yes, common cold. Yeah, but it's killing people. Okay, well, we just came from Africa. They got it over there too. They're taking ivermectin, they're taking hydroxychloroquine, they're doing fine. Yep. So I went into the State Operations Center on Lamar Street, a little bitty basement thing where the State Emergency Operations Center is, about 12 times the size of this room, with cameras everywhere, lots of money going out the door. $54 million of PPE was bought in the first week out of Texas, for Texas. Personal protective equipment, nasal swabs, ventilators, all that stuff to handle all the deaths that are going to come. And I was the liaison to Governor Abbott's staff. Long tables like this, we're having meetings every day. I'm the only Army guy in the room. I have to be a flight surgeon who understands biowarfare. And I'm also trained and just came from places where I was watching this. And they said, don't ever mention hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin in this room again.
Yeah, right.
This was from the Department of State Health Services lead. I said, ma'am, I just came from Africa. Nobody's sick over there. This is what they're taking. These medications are safe. Right, well, don't mention it again. Okay. So they sent me out to the field. They said, all right, well, we're not going to keep you in this basement anymore. We're going to send you out to the field. And your job is going to be to do nasal swabs and everybody in the state. Worst job I ever had in my life. I thought I was going to come back to Texas and protect my border. Right? For the first time out of 50-something countries around the world, protecting everybody else's border, it's about time that we protected ours. Now, I could talk about Operation Lone Star in a minute. There's a lot of optics versus reality in that. I don't have to sling mud. All I have to do is tell the truth because I saw it. But in the COVID mission, it was a facade, the whole thing. And when we went to test, and this one's going to chap your hide if you're in the cattle business. We went up to Tyson's meatpacking plant, day one, 3,000 people per shift. The largest meatpacking plant in Texas, by the way, owned by Tyson's. There's only two nowadays that are that big in the state. They're both owned by either Chinese or Brazilian entities, or large ownership of them. So we go into Tyson's and they bring them out. There's 3 shifts and there are 3,000 people per shift. We got about 500 soldiers sitting there swabbing people with spacesuits on because it's so scary. And I'm going, I'm the colonel. I'm in charge of this thing. And I'm like, all these people coming through the line, nobody's sick. Nobody's sick. We're testing them all. By the end of the day, they shut down Tyson's meatpacking plant. Now, what does that do to the cattle prices? Do you remember when they went shot through the roof? Because they shut down the meatpacking plant. There goes the feeder lots. They get full. My family, who sends people from the Red River all the way to the feeder slots over there to push their feeder calves, guess what? They had to hang on to them. Guess what happened next? Think about this now, second, third order effects. Well, I got to buy round bales in order to feed my cattle that I'm not selling. So I'm going to sell them on pennies on the dollar. So guys, it's the fake PCR test that is cycling up of 45 up to 35 to 45 cycles. I can take it off the bottom of my boot, go like that, it's positive. Honestly. Now you put it in a Coke bottle, it'll be positive. You got coronavirus in there, got to quarantine that bottle. Okay, so we see the ridiculousness of all this stuff. So I went to the plant manager, I said, well, if you want to stay open, I'm just saying, if your people call in sick tomorrow, you won't meet the threshold, you'll stay open. They stayed open. Right? So if they really wanted to stay open, I said, if they are sick, send them to their doctor and they'll test them for whether they're sick. I'm not saying to not practice medicine, that's good. But I am not going to sign on to the way that they use these swabs. That, by the way, went all the way back into your posterior pharynx, which is right near your pituitary gland. Right? So we did something that I've never seen before in 20 years of medicine, which was to take a test and use it for screening, like for a swab. That's for confirmation. Never seen it. Even the guy that developed the swabs said this is not how it's supposed to be used. All this to say is, we got duped. The CARE Act then brought in millions and billions of dollars that came into the state, and it was a misabused. It was misappropriated, fraud, wasted, and abused it. Okay? I mean, and it happened all the way down the line. Because when there's gobs of money, people get greedy, and they start going after it. You got a judge down there in Harris County. She is responsible for billions of dollars that were given to people to do nothing. CARE Act money that came from the federal government, and some of it came from the state. We all have to pay taxes. But I digress. So they fired me from that job because they figured, how come everybody never shows up at all these sites whenever docs are? Well, why don't you go to the border? They're kicking off this thing that's called Operation Lone Star. Sure, that's where I'd rather be. Don't throw me in the briar patch, no. So they sent me down there. Now I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to do. Protect the border of Texas, the Republic of Texas. So now I'm down there on the border, and I'm watching it. We got 615 Mohicans down there, the 3 of the 141, which is an infantry unit in McAllen. Guess what? The lineage of the 3 of the 141, there's something prophetic here. It goes all the way back to William Barrett Travis. And I was the de facto commander of that unit on that border. The very thing that I left out of, and I came in the infantry, even though I was in all these fancy units in between, I left out of the infantry. And I left out of the unit that was commanded by William Barrett Travis at the Alamo. Now there's something significant to that, because I take that serious. When I walked in that room, and I job, but, we'll handle it. We'll take care of it. 350,000 to 500,000 unaccompanied minors are still missing from that border. Still missing. They came into this country. Our 19 boys in downtown Austin, they were part of a gang that called Los Cholos. They were given 5 sponsor families.
That's good.
From Operation Lone Star numbers that came through. 12,500 people a week came across that border. Now, Trump came in, he puts a tourniquet on it, we're good to go. What happens after Trump leaves? Can we guarantee that we're going to have a secure border again? So we really don't right now, because it comes through in different ways. It comes through in outlawed CDL drivers that have just yesterday, one of them got picked up for 20-something people in the back of the freight line. Right? This is the tactics change every time we do something. It's whack-a-mole every time, and we have to expect that. But you can't be proactive if you're retroactive and thinking. There's this thing called left the bang. So here's timeline, and here's the bang. This is the idea in the road. We got to be thinking about it here, not here. I've been hitting an ID in Iraq, 2004, 12 May, Greg Ward and Mike Bravo, 456078990. Nice day, nothing really going on. 3-vehicle convoy, I got 2 antennas on my truck. By the way, don't ride in a vehicle with most antennas. That's the one that gets blown up, that's the command vehicle. And they detonated it on me. I survived it. Jeff Shaver protected me, my sergeant. He didn't survive it. A year later, I went to see his mom, Mrs. Shaver, and I asked her, can I talk about Jeff? She said, keep him alive the rest of your life in your works. So I'm going to tell you a story. So Jeff protected me 100%. Took every bit of it, and I couldn't do anything for him. But we were in combat, so I can't stop him and cry. But a year later, I did. Because I met his mom, and I said, ma'am, I was his commander, the captain at the time. I'm responsible for everything that happens or fails to happen. This is what leadership looks like. Because I learned it from Vietnam vets when I went through. This is what leadership looks like. I am responsible for everything that happens or fails to happen. If it happens, my troops did it. If it doesn't, it was me. I'm full responsibility. She could have slapped me, she could have spit on me, she could have hated me, she could have choked me, and I would have taken it. She said some words that were probably the hardest thing I will ever hear. This is his name right here on my wrist, Jeff Shaver, the first one. I could put 20 more of those on my wrist. First kid that I ever sent home. She said, live your life like his life mattered. A single mom, 1 kid, live your life like his life mattered. Now, we live our life like his life mattered, that means we got to serve his heart. So whether you believe in this or not, you're a part of this.
Yes.
You're made up of the very thing that created you. So for me, we take that very serious. Leadership is a very serious thing. So what are we going to do? And then we're going to go to the questions. What are we going to do? We're going to represent you, even if my career is on the line. Last story from the border. COVID shots come along. They become mandatory. Got 6,000 soldiers on the border at that time. We went from 600 to 10,000. But I had 6,000 of them. And I had done informed consents for 3,000 of them. In total, you don't need to take it. And I think out of the 3,000 informed consents I did, I think about 7 people chose to take it. Until the mandates came and they said, Doc, I'm going to do a recreation. Here comes General 2-star. Doc, you can't keep closing down the shot sites. Well, they're emergency use. I'm sorry, sir, I can't. Here's my board. Look, this is how many people were sick this week. They all took the shot. They already come on the board with it. I don't give a damn about the science. It's policy. Get with the program. Now, each and every one of you know somebody like that out there. Their job goes to their head. And the policy overtakes common sense and a certain level. It overtakes it. I don't know what's wrong with these people. So out of millions of people in the Department of Defense, there were four. There were four. I went to senators in Texas. I went to congressmen in Texas. I need your help because they're not listening to me at the governor's office. I'm showing them that these people are dying. The first two that happened on the border. First one was by myocarditis, pericarditis. The second one was by a stroke in their 20s and 30s. Now, I've done Army medicine a long time. That's not normal for people that are healthy brains.
Yeah. Right.
So what do? Well, you go up and you say, go up the chain of command. So I go up the chain of command. General, I don't want to hear about it. Okay. Go up to the governor's office. Well, we don't really. That's we're not gonna. That's sensitive. We're not gonna talk about that. Go to Dan Trenshaw's office. I'm gonna just call it out. He was the most egregious of them all. Treated me like crap. I said I got 6,000 Texas sons and daughters on this border, and I said I need some help. They're getting sick based on the shots, and they're making me give it to them. I need you to stand up. This is his staff, and he was on the phone, but he didn't say anything. And they said, well, you got to follow through your chain of command. I said, we've already been there. I'm here now. Well, I don't know. So we bypassed that. There was a Wisconsin senator that came out, Senator Johnson, that said, I need some whistleblowers. And he protected us, whistleblowers. And protection's not very effective if you're a whistleblower. But anyway, we get to Capitol Hill, we go to testify, and I get this phone call literally an hour before I'm going to testify, and it's from Crenshaw's office. And it's his chief of staff, and he says, hey, are you on the docket to testify today about the COVID stuff that you came to talk to us about? I said, yeah, it was about 7 months ago. Why? What are you going to say? I mean, what are you going to do? And he goes, no. I said, okay, I'll tell you what. I won't speak about you on the floor. If you can get Crenshaw, I'm in the Longworth building right now. You can come down here and talk to me face to face. Okay, I'll get back to you. Crickets. So I testified. And went all the way to a federal court case, SEALs versus DOD. Now, he was a SEAL. You'd think he would have stood in the gap for his own fellas. This ain't a Bass Crenshaw day. It's just, I'm telling you how the stair-step thing happened. Went to the SEALs versus DOD, one of 4 whistleblowers in the whole United States Department of Defense, now called the Department of War. And you know what happens? We beat the Department of Defense. The Texas Military Department, people that stood up, we beat the Department of Defense. I don't care how much you say that you have supremacy clause in the federal government to the states. You are not supreme to the state. The state created you. You cannot be. You can call it all day long and take the paperwork, but until somebody stands up and says, no, we will not allow federal overreach. We will stand in the gap for our troops, despite what happened. You want to know what happened? They fired me from the border. They sent me up to go all process because I was going to retire anyway. I had over 20 years, 39 total years with active Guard and Reserves. They sent me a box one day. Showed up at the trailer park there at Camp Mabry. I was in the back there, and a box shows up FedEx. It's on my discharge paperwork. Good luck to you, and have a nice life. All right, usually they do a ceremony, say goodbye to you. I don't care. I don't need ceremonies, fancy titles, nice shirts. Donald Wayne said he didn't have use for either one of them. But if they're doing that to me, one of 5 United States in the whole inventory of the United States history of the Army, one of 5 doctors that was a Green Beret that went through combat vet. That's okay, I can live on $4,000. We went to work countering human trafficking and helping ranchers on the border not to get in gunfights with cartel guys. If we had to do it for them, we would. So we are still 508c1a. It's a non-for-profit. We rescue kids. We got 4 this month. You want to see heaven? Yeah. You want to see heaven? Look in the eyes of the child that you've just rescued. You'll see heaven.
Yes.
I promise you that. I promise you. They're desperate. And we're going to continue that, despite whatever I'm doing right now. I still go hang out with the team and help out. But I've got the finest in the world. Sometimes you'll see them with me whenever we're doing a big venue where we're about some jihadist trying to shoot me. We'll have these guys with me, and they're all Big fellas, you'll see them. They'll be dressed like me, but they wear black hats. So, you'll like them. But yeah, now, baseline, you know, it's going to be for me. Baseline is going to be security. It has to be. Everything has to be based on security. What's right above that? Well, let's think of the rule of threes. How long can you live without air? 3 minutes. How long can you live without shelter in an extremely cold environment? 3 hours. How long can you live without water? 3 minutes. Now, I've been in the sub-Saharan desert, and I've had to traverse some of that stuff. And it's hard to go with one little camelback of water, but you got to conserve it. But you can survive 3 days, I promise you. I've done it. You get to that 4th day, things are going to get real hard. What happens when the water disappears in Texas? 2050 to 2070, it's estimated. We're using hundreds of millions of gallons for AI data centers. How much water does the AI, can you, oh wait, you could have AI create a picture of water, but you could drink it. Nope.
Some people
And it is tongue in cheek, but I promise you this, now that I'm hearing it, I'm drinking from a fire hose, if you will, of information on the problem sets on Texas, I have to prioritize them based upon the problem set. Yes, the problem is taxes and this and that. We're going to abolish taxes over time, and we'll do that. We're talking to Governor Stitt of Oklahoma, and we're talking to DeSantis' team out of Florida, and we're figuring out how that can be done without setting the economy on its head. But that's a Hegelian dialectic if we don't consider it. And that means we're arguing about something that doesn't really matter right now when something else is being synthesized when we don't have water. Right? Because me as a guy that's had to walk through sub-Saharan, I didn't think, well, I sure hope that my taxes next month I don't have to pay them. No, I sure hope I have enough water. Right? So we got to prioritize the things that are the most important. And when you got people that got billions of dollars sucking water out from underneath their neighbors, and when you got people that are creating these reservoirs, and I'm sure there'll be a question to come, and we're going to pair up because we've got to. The priorities got to come as to ways. We look at the future ops. It's actually planning any military life cycle. You look at what could potentially come and have everything set up to fight that. So we're ready. So I look at Kansas, and I talk to people up in Kansas. They got an aquifer that's going from the Ogallala River to the ranchers. Aquifer, pipe, water, go. Okay, let's make it happen. Contamination plants, and having those things plussed up by small nuclear devices, not devices, sorry, wrong term, energy, we've got to think ahead, right? James talks about it all the time, and I hear it, I got this off him, did a little research. Texas only uses 40% of its natural gas in power generation. We got another 60%, so let's start thinking that way. Because that's the stopgap that gets us to that 2050, 2070, where we can then pipeline an aquifer across Texas to my friend over there in Lubbock that I spoke to is a cotton farmer and said we're going to run out of water by 2050 here, probably early. Now, my family's 5th generation cotton farmer, and we got out in 1999. So for us, he said, "You guys are smart. I wish I was out. The crops, the produce, cotton, the services, water, the things we need to survive, beef, right? There's an attack on every one of it. Now I have to set, how do I stop those attacks? We're talking about food, right? I like Mr. Sheets, he's running for Ag Commission. When you're talking about food, that is a problem because our nation has been sickened by our nation, right? It's just a fact. Just a fact. And we're not allowed to produce clean beef, clean porcine, clean anything, clean water. So we got a problem. And we continue to spray the skies with things that come out with barium and cesium and aluminum that are coming in the ground. I don't care if you believe it or not. I just happen to have a little insider information from the Air Force side of the house. Those are real, and they're spraying. And I talked to Dane Wigington 3-4 times now. He's geoengineeringwatch.com. This is not my only thing in life. I've got a lot of things to have to deal with, but I know it because I see it. You could say, well, that's a contract. It's a condensation trouble. Well, I'm a flight surgeon, by God, and I know a little bit of physics about flying, and I know what happens at density altitude and certain altitudes when condensation comes off of a wingtip vortice or goes through a combustion engine. I know about that. But if it lasts across the sky for the rest of the day and it turns into a day like this, I'm not saying this was created by it. We have days like this. It's time of year. But if you hear a hoofbeat, what do you think about, a horse or a zebra? It's Texas, we're not Africa. Okay? This is exactly what I'm saying. Common sense. All right, so I'm going to do one last thing here. Oh yeah, 3 movies I want you to remember. And we'll talk about all the policies. They're all out there. I mean, I can't bamboozle you with policy until you understand who I am. And then you figure it out. But there's one thing I want to say, and Bob Hall gave me this, and this is a horseshoe nail. Okay, so if people think that their votes don't count, now you're here, so you believe your votes count. You believe that you can energize your base.
Right.
I know you can. Because if you get energized by your leader, which supposedly that's going to be me, well, if you get energized by that, I'm not going to be the governor. That's too British for me. I'm going to be the senior public servant, because I like it because it has the word servant in it. Servant's heart. That's what's going to be on the desk, not governor. I'm not doing that. We fought Britain way too long ago to continue with their terminology. For want of a nail, a shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, a horse was lost. Think about the importance of one vote, one nail. For loss of a horse, a rider was lost. For loss of a rider, a battle was lost. For loss of a battle, a war was lost. For loss of a war, a nation was lost. For the loss of this Republic of Texas, America will be lost.
That's
The
right.
loss of America, as she stands, United States, freedom in the world is lost. Now, there are bad people all the way to the top. Here's how you work on that. We had Stockholm Syndrome happen to us over this last 7 years. Stockholm Syndrome. That's where you're captured by a captor who keeps you alive, and then you start falling in love with him. That's what happens. I'm a hostage rescue guy, I know. And my job is to walk in there, kick the door down, shoot every bad guy in the face, and rescue this person. Sorry about the ugly language, but it's just a fact. And I look at that person, I say, follow me if you want to live. And if you don't, you're coming over my shoulder. Guaranteed, every time. So it's my job to have that kind of fervor and that kind of zeal to say, yes, I am a watchman. And yes, I will stand in the gap. And yes, there is nothing that's going to come between me and doing that. Nothing.
That's right.
The federal government, I will adhere to all laws, but I will stand in the gap every time. Because just suing the federal government doesn't do it.
That's right.
Okay? I'm going to show you one example on that. H-1B visas. Jobs are being given away, right? To foreign countries. Over us. Typically IT jobs. Technology. Here's the problem. The governor believes he can't do anything about it. This is a federal law. It's a federal immigration law. Yes, there is a thing you can do about it. You can stop stepping up into the regions, the board of regents of colleges, and allowing these people trained in Mumbai and other places, down in Thailand too, and some other places in Africa, to take the jobs away from our kids. We're sitting at number 40 out of 50. Yet we have the 9th largest relationship. The center of gravity needs to move just a little bit down from infrastructure and money and spreadsheets and world rankings right down to here. That's where it needs to come back to. Where we know each other, and we're transparent, and you understand that what I say I mean, and what I mean I say. It's not just me. I'm just the one herding cats. I've just got to do that. We've got the smartest people in the world working right now on policies. We're going to hit the ground running. We're watching Abbott. He's over here like this, his people copying our papers, right? The 5-point plan, half of that's our stuff. It's okay. Because if between now and the 2027, the next governor comes in, if we can push them and change them a little bit, we'll do it. Yeah, I have no problem with it. If it saves somebody a house, if we don't tax people out of the middle class, yeah, I'll do it all night long. I'll give you the paper. Here you go, sir. Use it. I don't care. But we're going to fight together. So if we're going to take it, do we have 4 more years of this? Do we have 8 more years of this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. When I looked into this, I talked to Alan West, I talked to General Flynn, I talked to all these guys that I know, Chad Prather. Do you think I should do this? Absolutely, yes, Pete. You must. You're the guys that have the experience. You've been downrange. You've been a warrior diplomat. I've negotiated with kings in Jordan. I've met with the Speaker of the House many times in D.C., although he turned out to be a little bit of a problem set. Right? Fortunately, he broke my heart because I thought he was a good guy. But that's what we've got to do.
Yes.
We have, each one of us.
United. Yes.
You got to get it. We're going to have to get out of our comfort zone. I don't get to go sit on the porch like, secondhand lines with my shotgun and watch my cattle grow. I don't get to do that. I'd much rather do that, to be honest with you. But I've got to get in that pickup truck out there and I got to drive around the state. And I got to put diesel in that tank. Now you can dig in and you can help out, but you've got something that I don't have, is the ability to force multiply and get more. Yes, sir.
You got a donate jar here?
Somebody throw down a cowboy hat. That's how we used to do it back home. There you go. James, I'll put you to task. We'll be working together in the future.
I just made a check out.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Miss Lydia, yeah, we can do it. We got a little envelope up here. Yes, sir. And we'll keep it, and we keep your name on there, and we give you credit for it. Make sure that we keep the ethics people happy. All right, so let's do a few questions, and then I'll take a bunch more, but I'm going to let Rob, do you want to run this, or do y'all want to run this? How you take your questions, or how long? Because I know that they've got the venue for just a little bit here. What's that? 3 what?
Movies. 3 movies.
Oh, 3 movies. Yeah, okay, sorry. 3 movies. True Grit, Braveheart, and Gladiator. It's going to take some grit. This is no child's game. It's going to take some grit, because we're all going to be working together. Anybody like True Grit? I mean, that's my favorite movie. Second to John Wayne, second to the Green Berets, because that's what made me join it. And then we've got Braveheart. We got United Plans. All right, we got any Scots in here, or Irish? All right, so you understand this the best. I don't care what color your kilt is. If it's blue and red, or if it's green and yellow, or if it's whatever, we got to unite plans. We got to stop this pity party going on in the Republican Party, where they're stabbing each other in the back and carrying on belly aching like a bunch of children roll on the ground that they can get their sucker at the checkout line. Stop it. Just stop it. Grow up. Number 3 is Gladiator. I've got to take the Republic this time, in this case, the Republic of Texas, and I've got to return it back to the people. All right, that's what we're doing. All right, questions? Right there. Yes, ma'am.
Doc, I want Texas back. I want my Texas back.
Yeah.
And we have watched a nation go through an open border situation through the Biden administration, going even further back. But we kept hearing, this is not sustainable, this is not sustainable, this is not sustainable. And we elected a president for a second term that many people thought was unelectable on number 1, the border. Number 1, the border.
Security.
We are now looking at the very same scenario in Texas.
Yes, we are.
And it is unsustainable.
Yes, ma'am.
And we are outgrowing our resources so rapidly with nobody willing to put the brakes on.
Correct.
And we have got to have a warrior in Austin.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, that's true.
It goes back to how many people can you put in a boat?
That's the reason that I put security and water and infrastructure in the same category, the requirements to survive. If we allow whatever, be careful with this term, I'm going to use it the right way because I can't give up techniques, tactics, and practices, okay? We're all tier 1 guys that work for me. These are special operations guys who know how to, use the word eliminate, let's see, how to cut down a threat, okay? Because you can't do this in this environment. If I use certain words, it scares me, right? So I don't care.
There's got to be a
People
way.
here, they're going to do interviews, and I don't care.
There's got to be a way.
Go ahead, you take a good picture.
Okay, these are your resources.
Our resources, but we've got to put security first, okay? So I'm going to give you a little insider information on that. The way that we took ISIS out of Syria really quickly was something that we used a cycle. It was called find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze, disseminate. That's the F3 EAD principle. Look it up. A lot of business people use it right now. We've learned how to do that very well. Now we can find and fix, find meaning the problem set, fix the location of it, and then finish it. Now finishing it downrange is a different kind of definition than here. Here it is to either send law enforcement in to shut down Epic City, or to go into Colony Ridge and shut it down. I've spent a lot of time in Colony Ridge investigating there, right, doing operations in the air and on the ground. There's a lot of bad actors in there. It's now occupied with approximately 120,000 people. 2023, there was 20,000 people. That's just the facts.
Yeah, guess what? We've got a governor right now that helped the developers at Colony Ridge. I was
It's
talking
not
about
alleged anymore.
Colony Ridge 3 years ago.
Yes, ma'am.
We also have Epic in the eastern
Up there, yeah,
part.
we got that. Be called. They're going to change the name, right?
Yeah, to the meadow.
So you can put lipstick on a pig, right? Okay, so it doesn't look any better. no, I get it. And so those are problem sets. Now, we know that there's a foreign terrorist organization moniker that was placed on that. That's good. Right? We were recommended it a few years ago. We were the only people briefing the governor, specifically his staff, on that particular problem set. It's okay. Finally, we did. It took 3-4 years to do it. An election, right? A coward's way out. But there are those of us that have still stood in the gap to make sure that we set the conditions forward to take that down quickly once we find it. That's a network. Now we look at that, expose, EAD, analyze, disseminate. This is what we do. We expose the problem. We've been exposing it. That's how you heard about it, right? Dan Bannerstiel and Mike Wiono, we went up there and flew around in 2023. But then we expose it, and then we analyze it, and we give it to people to analyze openly, because this isn't top secret information. We found it, the civilians did it. We're civilians. We can do anything I want. I don't have to worry about the red side anymore. Top secret clarification, or release of information. No. Guess what?
Yeah.
I'm a civilian finding this stuff. So if we expose it, then we analyze it, then we disseminate it. We get it out to the media. Larry Logan, right? Been on her show, spoke with her on multiple times. This is what we do. We disseminate the information, because then people get mad about it. And was that old movie? I'm mad about it. I'm not going to take it anymore. Right? That's right. Righteous anger. It's okay. Even Jesus flipped tables. Right? I can show you how to do it too. I watched a deal on Jesus flipping the table. But yeah, we have to do that, and then disseminate. Then we go back to find the next problem, and find the next. That's how we control chaos. We control the controllables. It's chaotic. Some people like living there. I can do it. I don't like it. This way.
Oh, no.
Give me an easier question.
Get back to the cattle deal for the family farms and ranches and generational deals. Of course, we file on government with mandatory EIDs, the NCDA, different things, they're all against all of us. So there's another set of numbers that doesn't get talked about. It's easily researched on the USDA website. When they talk about the growth of 2050, the population growth, so I'll probably mess these numbers up a little bit, but it states that one farm feeds 169 people here in Glover. With the population increase, we're gonna have to increase our grain farm by 20 billion tons, and our meat supply by 200 billion tons by 2050. And our own government and other things involved, we're dropping like flies daily. 1.2% of us feed the rest of this country.
That's right.
So, as in state of Texas, maybe a little bit more under ag commissioner deal, but, where do we go from here? But we've got to figure out some way to save these farms and ranches, and to me, more specifically, these family farms.
Right. Well, there's such a thing as antitrust acts that have not been adhered to. When we look at 2 large meat packing plants in Texas right now, 2. When we had in 10, 15 years ago, hundreds. Right? Even before that, literally the hundreds, locally. So the focus is to go from ranch to table and to maintain those farms and ranches, because if we don't, that's a skill set that doesn't just pop up overnight. Right? And then you've got foreigners coming in to buy the land, pennies on the dollar, because it's typically, it's a sale, because they can't pay their taxes. The ranching industry is I've seen it, is typically a non-for-profit organization. Because there's so much backside that people don't see. The John Deeres now want exorbitant prices to run a John Deere, where it used to be one size fit all, and you could run any of them, and you could fix anything on it. And so there's a lot of backside costs in there when it comes to why do people use GMO-based spraying? Well, because it's all they got. And they got some kind of bug out there, it's a boll weevil or something that's going to take down a crop. So then what do? Well, Jimmy Carter came in and turned all my family into Republicans, because he came in with the subsidies and said, all right, well, we'll just subsidize you. You can grow everything you want. As soon as that first hailstorm comes, people aren't praying for rain anymore. In that business, they're praying for hail. So they don't have to grow anything. Right? So then you end up being taxed a lot of money for nothing to be grown, and you see the problem here, right? You see it. I see it. Everybody else needs to see it. The commodity is not only going to be water, it is food. And when they talk about, to me, somebody posted something the other day, what do you think about processed meat that's grown in a lab. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Really? You know, use a 3D printer for meat next,
yeah.
right? I mean, honestly, that's where they're at. The Campbell soups, we found out they're doing that. I used to love Campbell soup.
Oh, yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Processed cardboard. And so,
The USDA themselves, you know, when we were kids, there was, you know, a local butcher in every town.
Yeah.
They
You can't
make
find
it
them.
so hard for these people to.
we're gonna have to go back to that.
maintain their lives.
We're gonna have to go back to that. But the licensure problem is the problem. Okay, so here you go. Regulations, I'll get to you. Regulations, this is a key thing that I do talk about. The United States Constitution is 7,500 words long. The Texas Constitution is 100,000 plus words. That's a legislative labyrinth. Right? It's not in the body of the Constitution. It's beautiful. It starts out with a great preamble. It gives it to the Creator. I get it. That's what they do. They keep you there on the things that you can see. What you don't see is all the amendments that have come along since then. 700, 800, 900, more than any other state. Makes you have to have a license. Somebody came up to me, I gotta have a license for my bees. I'm like, what? I have a license for bees. Aren't they natural? Yeah, I need a license. Need to get rid of that. I don't know these things. I don't know what's coming into this. But it's those control measures that are placed by the state government. That's state. So when Abbott points at people and says, well, it's the local level that's causing the taxes to go up, it's not me. Well, think about the second and third order effects of the things you do. When you declare emergencies in the state government, when you do that, they get to go up 3.5%. Used to be 8%. They did knock it down to just 3.5. But they still got some counties that are still up on emergency declaration from Harvey. Now, why is that? It maintains those taxes. Right? So if you look at allowing for, a guy named Mitch Vexler was out there talking about this. Our team's talked to him a couple times, having to do with school bonds, the near insolvency of borrowing money to pay for money that was borrowed. Right? But they tax me, on that, and it's nearly insolvent. It probably most individuals say a Ponzi scheme that will put people in jail probably the next, if I come into office for sure, they'll be in jail in the first year because it's a problem. So all these things additively are the purpose of the governor, when I read the job description, is to protect the citizens from government overreach, from the feds, but also to make sure what's going out the door of Austin protects those at the county level. So if you want to have butchers again, you don't have those same costs that are additive. Because I guarantee a lot of people, we could solve a lot of job problems at the local level if we allow those fees to either come off or be a lot lower. It's ridiculous what people pay for fees now in Texas. But great point. Yes, sir. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, Northeast Texas is under siege right now. We're getting attacked in all different directions, whether it's unnecessary reservoirs, farmers and ranchers, solar farms, you name it, data centers, we're being attacked. We're being treated as resource colonies, and we are being despicable and lateral. So, recently, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex approved 23.5 million to develop housing in undeveloped land. So my question to you is, do you have any policies or things that you can think of in place to make these metroplexes do conservation instead of going outside of their region and taking other people's land, their homes, their cemeteries, their jobs, their way of life, so they can keep expanding beyond their resources and their infrastructure?
So there are policies that are already in existence that have not been adhered to, first of all. And we know that. Because as a guy that kicked off his campaign in August, and this is where we're at now, the amount of policies that I would have to derive to handle every single problem set, impossible. Right? About 3 people working on policy. We'd take any ideas, we'd take anything, because this is citizen-led governance. This is where you and I and anybody else that's interested gets on a task force. Now, as governor, you can actually call a task force, 24 members of a commission or a task force. But here's what they did during the floods, because I was there during the Guadalupe floods. The reason we started in August and not July, because we went down and helped out for a month. When we testified at the joint session, they set up a joint session and a commission. Rick Perry was on it. So-and-so was on it. So-and-so was on it. You need anybody without any special interest to be on a commission or a task force. So yes. No, some policy that's out there, don't think it's strong enough, we need something stronger. Because I talked to somebody up there in Gainesville. I think they're 7th generation Houstons. That family's gone. They lost their life. Lost their life. It's a travesty, right? So we've got a major problem in Houston. We do. So yes, welcome it. If you've got some policy, we definitely need it. We need it to move it fast, because when we hit the ground running, we hit the ground running. Right now, we've got the water policies that we're looking at. It's not policy yet, it's white paper. We'll get there. Yeah, because policy writers are few and far between when you don't have any. Well, when you have enough money to run your trucks to get down the road and do your 8 million impressions a week, that's a lot of money that goes out the door. So we've got to get out there, because name recognition is key to this game right now for us. Yes, ma'am.
Will you support Doge Texas?
Yes, but it should be already going on. There's the once again the Hegelian dialectic. So you bring in Doge, you get some guy, a loud guy named Elon Musk to go up there, everybody's looking at it going, oh, the Savior's here, and then what happened from it? Crickets, right? So we already have those policies, not policies, those agencies in place that study fraud, waste, and abuse. And guess who the action arm of that is? The Texas Rangers. That falls directly under the governor's office. I know them well. And there are certain major crimes in the state of Texas. Right? There's 20 of them. Now, counter-human trafficking isn't even on the top 10. That'll move up a little bit when I'm there. But when it comes to fraud, waste, and abuse, yeah, there is a way to do that. But yeah, I think the comptroller should have a specific task force on it. 100%. Because those people need to go to jail if it's a sin of commission. If it's a sin of omission, then you'd be fired. Yes, sir.
Have you learned any interesting civil laws or common laws?
Oh yeah, common law courts. I'm big on that. Yeah, common law marriage is a thing here, and Beyonce's back in her head. But we need to look back at common law courts. That happened. That went out back in the 70s. Get away from statutory law and not deal with elaborate litigious nightmares that they do. A good question. A good point. All right. I'll talk to anybody until the very end. I'll be here because we're going to hang out. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I know there's a lot of stuff going on in Texas now. I mean, we're getting attacked from so many sides. But most of us here are parents, grandparents. We have kids. Well, tomorrow, the bill, and I think it's the right one, I'm saying the name, HB2, goes into effect. That's opening up all bathrooms in your school, in your little kids, transgender. That goes into effect tomorrow here in Texas.
Well, that's a bunch of hooey. That'll get revealed.
We need to really get angry.
Yeah. I mean, that's just common sense. But I didn't know that was actually coming in tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what it is tomorrow. That's the furry thing
All
and
right, so do
everything.
yourselves a favor, because I can't do it all for you. Look up who signed that thing and vote them out of office.
Yeah.
That's not even close to being right.
Yes.
Sorry to hear that.
I have a question, Doc.
Yeah.
There are certain things, I don't know this because I don't know the Constitution of Texas, but there's certain things a governor can do, and they don't need the legislature. And there's certain things that you can't do to get the legislature in your way. What are the key things that you know you can do and implement without having all the rhinos, Democrat-oriented individuals in the legislature getting in the way?
Yeah, so first you have to be able to garner support from the constituents. Most of the time that requires a relationship with your populace, right? I mean, if I was in the middle of Afghanistan right now, we were Taliban country, and they would insert me with 12 guys, I'd have to go and deal with the populace so I don't get my head cut off, put on the internet, right? Well now, figuratively speaking, you get your head cut off if you get others speak in front of a pundit that doesn't like you. And then they post and they blog and they tell all these bad things about you. It's okay, we can do that. But what I can do is, as I'm doing now, is I meet people, they understand, we develop task forces, commissions, and then we garner that support so that we can do then something like, let's say, what stopped the Trans-Texas corridor from Rick Perry when he was here. That's a highway going from Texas to Canada, the NAFTA time. a 391 commissioner. And it was the citizens that stopped that, right? So the governor could say, hey, y'all know you have this power. You can use this. Get two contiguous counties or two counties together with a certain, it's a certain quorum of, county commissioner or city leaders and citizens, and you could stop and petition something from happening. Now that's just one thing. That's what the governor does. But I'm not the one that hurts the cats, right? But I'm responsible for the budget. So what does that say? When it comes to spending, I can veto any spending that goes to something like a bill like that. Guess what? You don't get your money to put those bathrooms in the school, right? I mean, you got to be that proactive, but you got to pay attention and listen, because there's two of these and one of these. So you got to hear what the problem sets are. But I didn't know half this stuff. You know?
I was wondering, instead of like the TEA and the problems that we.
We're going to abolish the TEA. Next question. That I can, yes. I can change the board of regents out. I can fire everybody on ERCOT. If somebody's a tenured person, we'll put them in a closet and let them work on cleaning the mops. I mean, we'll keep their job, but they just won't get paid as much. But yeah, I'll do what they did to me when I was in Texas National Guard. I took a guy that's a field guy that was missions across Africa 1,000 miles wide and said, put me in a closet and said, well, now you're going to do physicals. I ain't going to happen. I'm out. I'm going to go on Alex Jones. That's what happened. But great question. Yeah. We got to decentralize the medical board. We got to fire the Texas Medical Board. I'm going to say it right now, boldly, right? We've got to get an AG that will go after anybody that has been involved with crimes against humanity, and then we bring them into Texas once we develop the elements of a crime, that there was a victim, there was a perpetrator, and the intent was that they were intending to do some harm, right? Those are hard things to get. But until you don't go, if you don't go after it, you're never going to put people like Fauci in jail. And if the federal government won't do it, Texas, by God, will. Sorry, I'm not giving you a hard time. I just like you. All right.
What do you like for Texas?
Here's what I've learned in this business. When you start endorsing, when you are not an incumbent, you develop all those people's enemies, right? It's just, and I don't do that to other people, so. But I personally have met all and personally like, right?
Thank you, Shirley.
I don't see any major character with problem sets. But yeah, I want somebody that's going to actually come in and just be somebody who can work on a team, right? You gotta be a team. After the primaries, yes. Yeah, that'd be fair. Because I did that one time. I said, I really like this person. They run in this seat. And then I got attacked by some skinny jeans pundit down there in Houston. Doesn't like me now. Darn it, like, but if you're not a grown man and you can't FOIA something, then call me a, what do you say? He's not even a real doctor because he calls himself Doc. I'm like, oh, son. And then he wants to interview me. I'm like, no, I'm not going to interview a child that doesn't do his homework. I don't have time for that. Let's get some serious people together. Okay, I think we're good, and we'll turn it over to y'all and close it out, and then I'll get anybody.
Okay, guys.
Okay, we're ahead of time?
So, thank you.
All right.
And that's going to be here for a little while now. I have to say, Rob is going for a little bit longer, and I think he's willing to